Well, they served this country, but they also broke the law. And because of it, a group once promised U.S. citizenship has been deported.
Senior investigative reporter Stephen Stock just returned from Mexico, where he found U.S. military veterans kicked out of the country that they fought for. Stephen.
Jessica, a law dating back to President Bill Clinton's administration allows the federal government to deport any non-citizen who commits certain crimes, even some minor crimes. Now, this applies even if they've served in the military. Because of that, we found hundreds of U.S. veterans deported by the very country they were willing to die for.
Outside. Yeah.
When you walk out of Tony Romo's back porch overlooking the Pacific, you might think you're looking at paradise.
You can see there's San Diego.
But in reality, it's paradise lost for Tony Romo, who feels trapped here.
Just like prisoners of war, you know, all of us together.
This is me.
Romo, a retired Marine who led raids into Iraq during the buildup to the Gulf War, was deported by the very country he served, forced to live here after serving time in a U.S. jail for selling drugs.
I miss the Marine Corps, I miss my country, my dad is over there, my daughter, my brothers.
Even so, Romo's allegiance remains to the country he can see from his back porch, just beyond the border wall.
And it is a great country, and I defend it any time. I still would.
We found dozens of U.S. veterans now living in Tijuana. Veterans like Armando Scott, a retired Marine.
All the deported veterans, I will bring them home.
All of them non-citizens who served in the U.S. military, dating back to the Vietnam War.
I've never lived in Mexico. I've been in the United States since I was 1 year old. How can they repatriate me to a country that I've never lived in?
All of them deported for committing crimes classified as aggravated felonies. Things like drug possession, failure to show up in court, or entering the country illegally. In this report issued by the ACLU of California in July of last year, they were able to identify some 250 U.S. veterans deported to at least 34 different countries. Our investigation found at least 60 veterans living here in the Tijuana, Mexico area.
I don't think it's right, but you know, that's the law.
A deported U.S. Army veteran himself, Hector Barajas, helped the ACLU prepare that report. He says the number of deported veterans keeps growing.
We've come into contact with veterans either being in the process of being deported or already deported, at least 301. We're up to 301.
Barajas served 2 years in prison after pleading guilty to illegal discharge of a firearm in Compton in Southern California. Deported in 2004, he now runs a shelter here in Tijuana, nicknamed The Bunker, where deported veterans can get help with job prospects, immigration advice, and legal services.
My allegiance to the United States is not to Mexico. I was born in Mexico, but my allegiance and who I choose to die and fight for is the United States of America.
Our investigation found 70,000 non-citizens enlisted in the U.S. military between 2009 and 2016. At least half of them never applied for citizenship, according to the Center for Naval Analyses, leaving them vulnerable to deportation.
I'm willing to put my life on the line for the country that I love. You know?
And yet, your country that you love deports you.
The only country that I've ever known.
To a man, these vets served their time in jail, prison, or probation for the crimes they committed here in the U.S. No one knows exactly how many there are because the U.S. government does not track them.
Who do you blame here? Did the military drop the ball?
Yeah, the Department of Defense did.
Retired Marine and former California Assemblyman Nathan Fletcher says he was shocked when he learned about these deported vets.
Anyone willing to die for their country should have a country willing to give them citizenship. And it's what they were promised when they joined.
Fletcher is now lobbying Congress to change the law and allow these veterans back.
If we had 300 Americans who were missing in Iraq or Afghanistan, we would stop the gravitational spin of the earth to bring them home.
They just have to qualify to be a U.S. citizen.
Sharon Rummery represents the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, the federal agency that processes citizenship. While officials with the Department of Defense declined our request for an interview, Rummery did agree to sit down with us and answer our questions.
Well, if you've been convicted of certain defenses, it's a deportable act.
Even if you've served as a veteran?
Oh, that's right, yes.
Does that seem fair?
We don't ask ourselves what's fair or not fair. We simply are here to administer the law. That's what we're charged with. That's what we do.
These are some of the men that have passed away here in Mexico.
In one of the saddest ironies involving this issue, current law allows these veterans to return to the U.S. after they die.
We will bring their dead body across the border. We will go to a military cemetery. We will give them a 21-gun salute. We will play taps. We will fold the flag. And a military officer will hand the flag to the family member and say, "A grateful nation appreciates your husband's service."
There's no honor in that. There's no honor in that, and only allowing these men to return when they die or when they're at the point of death.
We found the grave of one such veteran, Manuel Castaño, who had been deported to Juarez, Mexico, now back in the U.S., resting finally in peace in a national cemetery in El Paso, Texas. U.S. Justice Department stats show 1 in 100 vets end up in jail here in the U.S., and they're more likely than non-veterans to serve time for violent crimes. Many vets we talked with told us they were promised citizenship by their recruiters, and others told us that they thought they became citizens when they took the oath to join the military.
Right, so you can come back dead, but you can't come back alive.
That's exactly right.
So
And
is the Defense Department doing anything about it?
Well, that's a great question. The Pentagon has done a better job of educating these recruits and providing citizenship applications since 2009. But you know what? That leaves tens of thousands of vets still vulnerable for deportation.